Welcome to the Nerd Social. I'm Nathan. This is our second half of our conversation about episode 5 of WandaVision. If you haven't checked out the first half, the link is above. We've also have a Easter egg video for episode 5 to check out as well. There's another link up there. All right, let's get into it. This is the part of our conversation where we discuss our theories. Spoilers ahead. All right, so I think we should jump over to theories now that we talked about some of the main items, so we can really jump into what some of this stuff means. So who wants to start off here?
Colin, why don't you go right
Sure.
ahead.
I think that's just curious as to how Quicksilver came back.
Mhm.
Did Wanda open a portal into the multiverse to bring in another version of Quicksilver? And why didn't actually Wanda try to bring the dogs back from the dead, or Quicksilver back from the dead, like her Quicksilver from Ultron? So it may be a wonky type of explanation that's outside of the universe, but at the same time, it brings up a lot of questions as to how she has some limitations to her powers, and that maybe she does bring someone from another universe, but she cannot bring people back from the dead. And it was very interesting because either Billy or Tommy was talking about, Mom, can you bring anybody back? Can't you do that? Can't you bring people back from the dead, like our dog? And basically Wanda was like, no, this is a line that we do not cross. We don't do that type of thing here, even when her kids were very upset about it.
You can fix anything, Mom. Fix it dead.
What?
So is there a limitation to her powers? And that's going to be something that I would like to see explained a little bit in future episodes.
So what I noticed with that, Colin, was it looks like they're trying to establish two rules to these powers or whatever they're stuck in. One being that you can't bring something back from the dead, and the other is that you can't control kids, right? So those are two things that I noticed there. So with Evan Peters, that version of Quicksilver being there, because she couldn't bring back Quicksilver, her brother, Aaron Taylor Johnson, from the dead, somehow she zapped in or brought in and materialized someone from another universe instead. That's how I read it. I think that also sets it up for the other multiverse type stories we're bound to get with Doctor Strange and Spider-Man, the next Spider-Man sequel as well. So I think that's how they're trying to that's how we're probably getting mutants too, right? These people from the Fox universe is coming in, and Evan Peters Quicksilver is the first one. And as for the kid not being able to control, especially when Agnes is sitting there on the kitchen counter going, kids, you can't control them, right?
Kids. Can't control them.
I thought she was going to say they grow up so fast. I was expecting her to say that. But she said you can't control them. And just a couple scenes before, when they were babies, she couldn't get them to really quiet down either. So I'm wondering if this is like some magic rule they really want us to know for some reason, that you can't control the kids. So I guess magic powers or something don't work on kids. So again, I just noticed that to me too.
Yeah, I think what you're saying could be true, but what I read from the episode is that I don't trust those kids. And it's probably why the first time I watched the episode I didn't like it. Partly the child actors, especially the 5-year-old child actors, weren't really good actors. But I think that she can't control them because they are part of the design of people who are in control. Just like that, she couldn't change the stork either in the previous episode. There's a reason behind that. I don't think it's just the kids. I think that there are certain things that she can control in this environment. That there are certain things that they allow her to control to allow her the illusion of control. The illusion that this is what she wants, or she's getting what she wants, and I think she's just being herded in the right direction to give a third party what they want. And the kids are definitely part of that design. I think that dog was killed on purpose to try to get those kids to age up again. And if she didn't stop them from aging up, they would have aged up again. Whoever is pushing this wants those kids to be wanted those kids to be born and wants them to be adults quickly. Agnes is the one who found the dead dog, so she's continues to be suspicious. She continues to be suspicious because of that. She continues to be suspicious because it seems that while other people in the town might be pushed like Norm, have no free will, there are certain people that have free will, and I think that Agnes can hear Wanda's wishes. That's why she's showing up whenever Wanda wants something. And that's why she said in the beginning of the episode, "Am I supposed to take the babies?" Because that's what Wanda's desire was. So that's why she showed up. And whenever Wanda wants something, she shows up because she can hear Wanda's desires. So she was thrown off by Vision saying, "Well, no, I don't want you to touch them," because that was off script, right? But she's aware that there's a script. Everyone else isn't aware that there's a script. I think everyone else is just playing their part, and they would have just rolled with it because they're being pushed by the environment. So I think she's definitely still suspect. They still don't have her on the board yet. They have the mailman, but they don't have her on the board yet. So yeah, and we still haven't seen her husband Ralph. This is something that mentioned in the Easter eggs as well. But every single time we see Agnes, she mentions her husband at least once, and she mentions him here. She's also drinking a lot, which is another thing that we mentioned. She's drinking, and maybe that's her way of keeping lucid through the control. Maybe that's how she keeps control by being drunk. I don't know. It's interesting. I think that those boys are not Wanda's who brought her brother from the multiverse. I think those boys have their own level of powers. They can age themselves up. They can disobey their mother. I think the story of on the couch when she was saying, "I have a brother, but he's far away, and I miss him." She didn't say that he was dead. She said, "I miss him." I think her boys pulled her brother because she seemed genuinely surprised that her brother showed up, and I think she was telling Vision the truth when she said, "I'm not trying to interrupt this conversation by pulling someone here," even though at this point he's understandably doesn't believe her. I think that was a genuine surprise when someone knocked on the door. I don't think that was something that she was. I mean, of course, it's something that she longed for since her brother died, but I don't think it's something that she was trying to disrupt the conversation for in that moment. I think there's all kinds of more other things that she could have asked for. So yeah.
Yeah, I just think that there's definitely throughout the episode there were definitely a lot of tension between Wanda and Vision, and
I don't know what you're talking about.
Stop lying to me! You don't get to make that choice for me, Wanda. I don't know who I am. I'm scared.
Vision not being very supportive or being very argumentative, and basically just questioning whether or not are you controlling this, Wanda? What's going on here? And that scene in which they were near the door and the end credits started to roll, and then basically like Vision's like, "No, you don't do this to me. You don't. We have to have this figured out and argued out." And so it was very fascinating that Wanda does have still some control of the situation, but then Vision in this way is trying to say, no, we need to have this argument. And you rarely see that it's almost like a sitcom trope. You don't see any type of conflict that is like in that type of real life occasion. You might see that on an episode of Roseanne or something like that, but not in something that's like bubbly sitcom 80s, kind of like what you said, John, about like Full House. I did see some Full House vibes in there. So yeah, it's definitely not very unusual, and at times it was very tense during those moments.
Yeah, that was hilarious with the credits rolling up, and then she just turned around and she was walking off.
Yeah,
that was a hilarious moment there.
I'm going to bed.
No, I have to believe that this, whatever this is was subconscious at first, and that Norm has a family. Wanda, he has a family, and he can't reach them.
Yeah, I want to go back real quick to Nathan, what you were saying about Wanda not really being in control. I have to agree with you there. At first, it looked like it was all her, and there's a possibility something else was pushing her to do all that. But I think this episode, for me, it cements that something definitely is egging her on or manipulating her to do this, leading her and everyone else to believe that it's all her. While she may have the powers to create most of it or do a lot of it, I think she got caught in it. And then we can talk about that too when we talk a little bit about Hayward. But I think as she was taking the pieces of Vision somewhere, I think she somehow ended up in this trap of some sort, this web or whatever it is. And now she's stuck there. But at the same time, kind of like when we see in Star Trek Generations, you got the ribbon that's floating, right? When people are caught in it, they don't want to leave. It gives you your most, what you want, right?
Yeah.
All your desires, what you want to see, all the good stuff. And that's what I think that's what it's reminding me of in this episode. The more things are revealed, that, hey, this is the Marvel's version of, it looks like maybe the ribbon. People are seeing what they want to see, except you got people forced to play.
Yeah.
It's coming off more, it's really now coming more and more off like a Twilight Zone episode. People are there against their will, having to play a part, and it looks terrifying, right? The guy, all of them are saying, "I'm in pain, it hurts," or and they're dying to get out because they want to see family and they're worried about their family members and such. So that they got some, somewhat disturbing moments there.
Yeah. Hey, folks, I just wanted to pause to say, if you're enjoying the conversation, if you're finding it useful, engaging, entertaining, any of the above, please like the video below. It really helps the channel grow, and we would really appreciate it. All right, back to it. Quick explanatory comma. You said Star Trek Generations we have nerd stuff stacked on top of nerd stuff. So Generations was the first movie with the new Star Trek: The Next Generation's crew. And I think it was called The Nexus. So William Shatner and Sir Patrick Stewart was in that movie. So that was what John was referencing there, just to give some background. So yeah, I think that what you're saying is true. I think one of the actually, as you were talking, John, you reminded me of a couple points that bolsters my opinion that it isn't Wanda. When Norm is brought out of his stupor, he says that she is doing it. Stop her.
You have to stop her.
Stop who?
She's in my head. None of it is my own.
She could be a lot of different people. It doesn't have to be Wanda. I think that
Vision, what a great point.
I think Vision jumps to the conclusion that it's Wanda because he's aware of her power set. I think everyone is supposed to jump to that conclusion because they're aware of her power set. I don't think it's her. I don't think it's her.
You got me convinced. Yep.
So I think that was a red herring. I think he jumps to the logical conclusion, and I think a lot of people will jump to the logical conclusion based upon what was said. I think based upon previous in the episode when Monica said that it was Wanda, or previous in the past episode, and also in this episode when they said it was Wanda, but Geraldine was Agnes was aware that Geraldine wasn't part of the thing. So she could have been feeding her, she or someone else could have been feeding her lines in Wanda's voice to make her think that it's Wanda. Everyone else might be getting instructions from someone else. I believe Wanda when she says, "Do you think I'm making 1,000 people show up to their dentist appointment, show up to their jobs?" She's not controlling all of this. She has control over her house to get what she wants, but I don't think she's controlling all of this. I really don't.
So, yeah, you're right. I think you're right. With all that, it's got to be Agatha Harkness now, right? It's got to be. With all that, you've convinced me. It's got to be her.
I mean, her or someone else. We don't know if it's Agatha. We don't know if Agnes is Agatha. But I don't think it's. I just don't think it's her. The other thing that you mentioned, John, when you were talking there, was the conversation that Monica, Darcy, and Jimmy were having about. They were just basically nerding out like nerds would about the end of Endgame. And I don't. I mean, I guess it's public now. I mean, half of the world blipping away and then coming back is for 5 years is a big thing. So I think there probably would be like a truth reconciliation sort of thing. Everyone would know exactly what happened on that day. But and also these are all agents and people who are read into top secret things. So maybe it's not knowledgeable. Maybe it's not public knowledge 3 weeks after the reverse blip to everyone else, but people with high security clearance, like they knew who was on the field. They knew how people reacted or who nearly took out Thanos. So the thing that they mentioned is this is a higher power level than she ever displayed in the past. And the way that Monica kind of pushed that aside is that, well, she could have taken down Thanos by herself, and she could have. Right. However, I don't think that her power level is. While I do think that she can possibly do this by herself eventually, she's not trained well enough. The example that I saw online, and I think it's pretty apt. You can think of her on the opposite spectrum of Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange wields magic as well, but he's actually trained. He's the sorcerer supreme. She's like chaos magic, hex magic, which is I like the Easter egg there, which we call it.
Said hex?
Yeah, hex magic.
So she's chaos magic. So she can't control it because she hasn't been trained yet. She can get better, and I think she could get this powerful, but she's not this powerful yet. She can't create matter. That's why I think when she was talking to her boys, she said, "Yeah, I can't bring people back to life," because she doesn't think that she can bring people back to life. She just knows that she brought that body to this place and Vision was alive, and she's not leaving because Vision is alive.
So why do they always do that to female superhero characters? They always portray them as raw, untapped, untrained power, right? That
this is true.
Needs to be somehow brought under control or something, right? Otherwise, they're going to be the most powerful thing to blow up. I don't know. Is that how men really see the women in the relationship? Oh my gosh, he's going to lose it, right?
They did this twice in Marvel.
Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, they did it with Dark
Phoenix.
They did it with Dark Phoenix, and they also did it with Wanda. As we said,
yeah, in DC they do it with Supergirl as well, right? When they reintroduced her, rebooted her under Jeff Loeb, she comes to Earth as potentially supposed to kill Superman, right? And she's this raw, untapped power that Batman wants to keep in check, just like he tried to do with Superman.
Right. Yeah, we definitely need to. I mean, that's a completely longer conversation about diversifying comic book writers. It's definitely better than when these properties were created. But yes, mostly white men making up stories about not just women, but Black people and Asian people, and that's why they when they redo these things and they make the movies, they have to kind of shed all the problematic elements. I think I have faith that while they are pulling from the source material, and probably the source material that they're pulling from, not the most, but a good portion of it is the House of M storyline, which was written by Brian Michael Bendis, which is a guy. While I think that they're pulling from his source material, and that's just another crazy woman out of control story, if you boil it down to its base elements, the screenwriter on this show is a woman. And I think I trust, based upon the interviews that Elizabeth Olsen has given, that she will provide the appropriate nuance to the grief that Wanda is obviously feeling, given all the loss that she's that's occurred in her life. I hope so. We'll see how they bring in the plane on this.
All right, Nathan, get us to Hayward. What you got with Hayward?
So Hayward, I think, yeah, we're definitely in the theory section. So Hayward, I think, was using Vision for his AI stuff. In the previous episode, he was saying that oh, we switched to robotics and AI, and then we hear in this episode they have Vision's body. They were definitely using Vision's body against his wishes. Exactly, against his wishes. Against his express wishes to use his body as a weapon. He was definitely using his body as a weapon. And so she came and saved the corpse of her lover. So but that's why he's working extra overtime to make her seem like a terrorist. That's why as soon as he saw that the broadcast, when Darcy showed that the first images that they got out of the anomaly were Darcy's thing. As soon as he saw Wanda and Vision, she said, "I need to transport back to the HQ."
So you're saying the universe created a sitcom starring two Avengers?
It's a working theory.
Get me a transport back to headquarters now.
Why did he leave immediately? Because, he's definitely one of the villains of the piece. And I mean, some people are saying that he's the villain because, I mean, I think they're stretching a little bit. In the previous episode, when you go into his office, he has a bunch of pictures arranged in a hexagon. And you see hexagons all over the place in this show, and in the last episode, that's the only place you see a hexagon. It seems like a bunch of awards arranged in a very weird way. I wouldn't have. I don't think of anyone would arrange awards in that way. So it does look weird. I think it's a stretch, but I think he's one of the antagonists of this show. He's definitely one of the reasons why. I mean, the way that he spun this story. Oh, I was authorized to show you guys this morning. He's the director of the entire organization. Who was he authorized by to show? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. He was authorized. No, he's trying to push you guys down a certain narrative to think a certain thing because he's trying to cover his behind. So yeah, he's definitely, if not the bad guy, one of the bad guys of this.
I just want to actually point out also is that we mentioned in earlier episodes that sentient weapon for sword, and wondering if Vision is the weapon. Is it? Or is it not? Because he is the one that's in the middle of all this. So it could be that sword was created out of not created, but created by Maria Rambeau, but then their focus or their priority right now is basically developing sentient weapons through Vision. So that's always been a storyline with a lot of different type of episodes. It reminds me actually of the first Transformers movie, Megatron. So that's very interesting. The 2007 version, Michael Bay version, not the animated cartoon version Transformers movie.
Yeah, I think you guys nailed it. You guys pretty much said everything I was going to say. I was definitely heading down that path as soon as this episode happened. Then it all fits. All the way he's been behaving, what he's been saying, and the really aggressive way he's trying to push that narrative that Wanda's a terrorist. And I even recall Jimmy Woo, he's picking up on all that, right? And even when he's saying to Darcy, and they're both saying, oh yeah, he is a whatever, they don't like him either. Yeah. They're picking up on that too, and he's going overboard. And I think you're right. I think he's trying to sweep whatever he can under the rug and trying to change what it looks like because he got busted. Wanda caught him trying to do whatever weapons, experiment, research on Vision, and Vision was in pieces. I think people should notice that he wasn't in pieces on the battlefield, not like that.
No, he was not.
I don't remember him being ripped apart. Do you?
No, he wasn't.
No,
it was just
Thanos was just
right?
interested in Thanos was just interested in the Mind Stone. He had no interest in his body. Yeah. So
correct.
Yeah, so I don't even know how he got a hold. Well, maybe we'll get some background story about how he got a hold of Vision's body, because he would assume that since Tony didn't get snapped away, that he would have gotten hold of the body. Like Tony was lost in space, right? So when Infinity War happened, Tony was in space, right? But shortly after that, they rescued Tony. He was like, the heck with you guys, go and try to get him by yourself. You said that we would be a team, and you weren't there when I needed you. So he didn't go. He didn't go on that mission to find Thanos. But he was there for 5 years. He was there for 5 years. So he could have gone back to Wakanda to retrieve Vision's body. And you have to assume that they're not going to just let anyone into Wakanda, even with T'Challa gone. So Tony would have been the one who pick up that body. I don't know how it got out of Tony's custody and wound up with Sword. It doesn't. I would like to hear that backstory of how it got
kind of like in some ways, kind of like Loki's scepter from Avengers, and how did it end up in Hydra's hands?
Yeah.
I mean, well, part of it we answered that in Endgame, but then like how do you get from there to Strucker? So that's very.
Yeah.
I don't think they ever answered that question actually.
So let's say Tony is or was involved in all this during those 5 years. Does Ultron make a return in any way? Does he have anything to do with this?
Maybe. The other thing that was like a nebulous theory out there, and I think this is similar to what you were saying, Colin, about people stretching and just trying to find patterns in everything is when Jarvis and Ultron were fighting when they were just sentient AIs. There were a bunch of hexagons moving about. So people think that maybe Ultron is behind some of this, like he's surfacing and he's coming back. I don't know. I don't know that. I think that maybe too many things going on, because you'd have Hayward, whatever's going on with Agnes, and maybe Agnes is Ultron, which would make the story simpler. I don't know if this even though it's not a movie, it's a television show. I don't know if they could do with 3 antagonists. I think there's probably just whatever's happening with Agnes and whoever's with Agnes and whatever's happening with Hayward. And it all might just be Hayward and Agnes together. I think Ultron would be just another element in there. I think Ultron might show up again eventually in the MCU, but I don't know if
I think so too.
I don't know if he's part of this story. Except for, the trauma that he visited upon Wanda in the past, when he killed her brother. So
Yeah. Well, remember, Vision was made from Ultron, so it begs the question: does he still have any pieces of him at all in him, too? Especially without the Mind Stone, right?
Yeah, this is true. Yeah, I mean, and there's also speculation that Wonder Man will show up at some point as well, because there's been Easter eggs inside of the episode about Wonder Man, and in the comic books, Wonder Man is an Avenger. He's also the brain pattern that is used to actually create the Vision. In the MCU, the brain pattern is a little bit of Tony, a little bit of Bruce Banner, a little bit of Ultron, and a lot of Jarvis is what actually I think that the actual line is a little bit is actually like that, like a lot of Jarvis. So, but in comics, the backstories are far more convoluted, but the brain pattern is simpler. It just comes from Wonder Man. So they're talking about Wonder Man being an aspect of this show, just because there were some behind the scenes conversations with the showrunner, and behind her, blurred out, was a picture of Wonder Man, and that just might have been something to throw. That might have been just something to throw people off. But people are really thinking Wonder Man will show up. Maybe he was the person maybe he was the person in witness protection, because there is a storyline where he was he was running for the mob. We still don't know who the witness is. We still technically don't know how Rambo survived that throw. She said that if Wanda wanted to kill her, she could have, but I think there's something else going on there, especially given the scans that she had when she left.
Yeah. So that's maybe the superhero in her starting to manifest, right?
Yeah.
And I think if you tie that with also the other seed, I think it was a seed being planted, where I don't know if you noticed the reaction she made when they mentioned the name Captain Marvel, and she just had this look on her face and tried to just brush right over it. Wu and Lewis were like, oh, I think they noticed that. I think that's hopefully that's setting that up for Captain Marvel too. Whatever's going to happen there, maybe she's pissed at Captain Marvel. She's off world while her mother died, or something like that.
Yeah, I think she's definitely pissed at she feels, I don't know if it's pissed. She feels some sort of way about Carol, because that's Auntie Carol. I don't know how often Carol came back since the 90s to visit them. We just know that Nick Fury called her when the snap happened. But she could have been back and forth since the 90s. But we don't know. Maybe she disappeared for like 2 decades, in which case you understand why Monica feels the way that she does. Maybe since the re-snap or the re-blip or whatever, 3 weeks have passed. Carol is alive. She knows that Carol's back on Earth because she read the field report of what happened at the end of Endgame. Carol hasn't come to talk to her, even though she knows that her mother's dead. So that's why she feels a certain way. There's lots of reasons why she feels a certain way, but she was quick to change the subject, and they definitely noticed. They were like, okay, yeah.
Or since Endgame, since whatever happened in Endgame, and she stuck around for Tony's funeral, maybe she didn't even bother to look for her or find her. Maybe that's what happened.
Yeah. Carol's definitely the way that they wrote her. She's definitely aloof, which is breath of fresh air, because they tend to always have to write female characters as like caregivers and nurturing, and you know some people aren't like that, and she's a bit aloof, and maybe it didn't even occur to her to check in with Monica, and that's why she feels some feelings about it. But I think we'll definitely hear or see more in the Captain Marvel movie from Monica and why she doesn't. I would like to actually hear more in this season, because if there's like people who are most important in this show, there's WandaVision and there's Monica. That's why I think the beginning of the 4th episode started with Monica. So maybe we'll hear more from Monica. The other thing that we heard in this episode, and I'd like to get your guys' take on who this person is. Who do you think the aerospace engineer who definitely will show up? We know that aerospace. We saw her open up her phone and send the text. Who do you think the aerospace engineer is?
I don't know.
Could be Reed Richards, I guess. Maybe.
Well, I don't know. Maybe Reed. It could be Reed Richards, actually. I wasn't thinking of that. I was thinking of Riri Williams.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh,
that's true.
Okay.
And that's
also a good one. All right.
And I was also thinking of maybe Rhodes.
Rhodey?
Rhodey, yeah. I don't know if
was he an airspace engineer?
I mean, he was in the Air Force. I don't know if he was an aerospace engineer. I don't know what his background.
That's why I couldn't figure out who it was. Yeah, but Riri would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, they a grown-up version of what's in the comics, right? So.
Yeah. I mean, they've already cast Riri because she's getting a show.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, she is.
But we'll see who it is, because I mean, they're not going to drop that thread. They were very particular about showing her text the person. But it was interesting. It would be interesting to see who it is. It has to be someone that we know, or someone from the comics, or someone that we know already that'll show up.
Yeah.
But Reed Richards is actually someone I actually didn't think about. Reed Richards, especially what you were talking about last week, Colin, with the possible connection with Sword and the Fantastic Four. It's possible Reed was already working for Sword, because he and his family already worked for Sword. So yeah, that's maybe they introduce X-Men Pietro in this show, and also Reed Richards in this show.
Yeah, he might also have had a mission under Sword, but they got into the quantum realm. Yeah, maybe, and then they're going to appear in Ant-Man. Maybe that could be another thing.
I don't know. In these 9 episodes, if they introduce mutants from a completely different universe and Reed Richards, nerd brains are going to explode. Nerd brains are going to explode.
Mine's already exploding.
Yeah,
that would be cool.
Well, we should wrap up the conversation, but that's what we saw. We've ran almost an hour now talk. Want to hear from you guys? Comment down below, like and subscribe, and we will see you next time. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.